because you're bound to make mistakes on the defensive end in a given possession. But to me, it's how you cover those mistakes. And the one thing we talk about is trying not to compound mistakes. One mistake can hurt you. It's the second mistake that kills you, right? So like I get beat off the dribble, and if Dan's not there to help at the rim or in a gap or whatever, well, that's what's going to kill us. Me getting beat hurts, but you not being where you need to be is the killer.
Hey, Coach, welcome to Game Time. Today I've got a great one for you. Phil Martelli Jr., head coach of the Bryant University Bulldogs, joins the show. We talk about defense, transition offense, and how to coach relentlessness. You ready? Let's go. What would you like your team at Bryant to be known for? What's your team identity?
Well, the program identity that we talk about a lot is player development and competition. And we keep saying if we focus on those things, and for us, player development is not an off-season thing; it's a year-round thing. I have an incredible staff that, led by Chris Cole, who's as good as anybody I've been around with player development, and the other guys, Brendan Phelps, Ryan Daly, Nick Schmidt, just basketball guys that love to be down there. And we have a couple of volunteers, Max Greenwald, David Bernstein, and Nikki Naps. They there's not a time of day where a guy doesn't call and say, hey, can I get a workout? Can I get shots? If it's an off day, it's managers. If it's a practice day or a day we can go and have some time, it's one of them down there. So that really is a big key for us. Playing style wise, we want to play up tempo, but it really starts on the defensive end for us. We do a lot of switching. We have good positional size, a lot of interchangeable parts on the defensive end. I think people talk about positionless basketball on the offensive end. We really look at it on the defensive end, where we've guys that can switch, that can guard the ball and guard inside, can rebound the ball. So really for us on the court, that identity is getting stops and then going, and playing off of concepts rather than plays, and playing off of reads rather than, okay, I got to go set this screen because coach said, coach called play blue, so I got to go. I don't want guys to play that way. I tell them all the time, we're going to go get hoopers, and I want them to hoop. I don't want to coach robots.
Yeah. So how does that show up in practices then? I guess it's a lot of communication on reading plays and kind of learning where to go and reading the defense.
Yeah, it really starts in the summer when we first got the group together around June 15, 16, somewhere around there, mid-June. Over the summer, we did a lot of skill stuff, but it's skill stuff. It's not just like go out there and spot shooting and we do driving kick every day, but it's driving kick with reads. We'll put walk-ons out there, managers, coaches, whoever it is, and put a guy. We're flipping the guy to the ball on the wing, on the right wing. There's somebody left wing, left corner. He's driving. He's got to read that help. And if no help comes, go lay it in. And then we have coaches hit for shots. If you drive it and that corner guy's defender helps, and you're kicking to corner. Sometimes we kick corner and go one more to the wing. Sometimes it's straight kick out and shot and get the other guy's shots. So we do a lot of that, driving kick reads, cutting reads, random ball screen reads with everybody involved. If you came and watched us, we'll do ball screen reads today when we practice. It could be our smallest guy at 6 foot, swinging and hitting our 6'10" guy, and setting the ball screen for him. We just, to get everybody, and that maybe doesn't always happen in the game, but with the way we play, you don't know. You don't know what that next action is going to be. So we try to get everybody comfortable in every spot, and it comes off of that, doing those reads and those. I'm not going to call it full live reads, with coaches out there, whatever, but it's a semi-live read that, you got to make a decision, and it really comes down to that, right? Decision making and playing in the flow of the offense that way.
So when I'm looking at your roster, it looks like you have maybe 12 new players this year. That's a lot of learning, a lot of teaching, especially in the first couple of months. What does that look like for you and your coaching staff for those first couple of months? How are you communicating what you want, what your terminology is, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just an everyday thing. We try to keep it simple. Again, I don't want them to turn into robots. So I don't want their minds to be cluttered with like, well, we call this and we're doing this and da 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 da, but trying to get them to play with an open mind. I give our staff a lot of credit. They recruited really well. You know, we got a bunch of good players, and I told them at the end of the season last year we had a good year, and you know, I said, look, you know, I really enjoy doing this as a head coach. It's been my lifelong dream. I don't know if I'm a good coach or not. I do know this: if you have good players, you're going to look like a good coach. I don't want to find out if I'm a good coach or not. I just want to have good players and have people, you know, fake people into believing that I'm a good coach because we've won enough games. So it comes down to that first and foremost. You know, like getting the right players, getting good players, giving them the freedom to make plays, but also within the confines of like, all right, like what kind of shots do we want to get? You know, and let's think about that. Like, hey, we want to get to the rim. We have a team that can really get to the rim. Let's get that. We want to get a lot of drive and kick threes, so let's get that. We can get transition threes. Let's get that. So it's a lot of that stuff, you know. And again, in the course of doing your reads and breaking it down, we can kind of get some of that stuff in there. You know, like what's our call when we're open? What's the call when it's a one more? What's the, you know, what do we call this cut? So if somebody says like, hey, look for that, you know, 45 cut, they understand what that means, or look at that corner cut and understand what that means. You know, and just kind of slowly giving that to them every day. And really the most important thing is we had 7 returning guys. So they kind of got a good taste of it last year. Obviously it was different circumstances, but you know, they've been able to kind of, the times that I'm not on something, they're on it, right? Like they're like, oh no, we do this with this. And then, you know, that kind of covers it. So you know, that really helps with the communication to the rest of the group. And we had 6 of those guys over the summer. So 6 of them were walk-on, not with us over the summer. 6 of those new guys over the summer. So, you know, I just told them the other day, we've had at this stage probably now 63 or 64 on-court practices together in various settings over the summer and the early fall, and then obviously full practice. So I equated that to roughly, you know, 90 hours. So we've been on the court for 90 hours together. Like, you got to have some feel at this point in time of, you know, who you're playing with and what you're doing.
It looks like that simplicity carries over to your baseline plays as well. When I look at your game film, you have one main set, it seems. Everyone's spread kind of in a horns formation, lots of options, lots of counters. If there isn't a quick hitter open, it flows nicely into an offense. Is that also by design?
It is. To be honest with you, I wish our execution was a little bit better. You know, we'll have the same idea this year, just out of a different formation. I like things that look the same, and then give different options off of that. So, you know, even our we don't run a ton of set plays, but like our set plays last year were all out of horns. You know, over the top, one guy go under. It all started that way, and then it was different actions off of that, whatever we called. This year we're doing it out of a little bit different alignment. You know, and some different plays to, again, to me, I look at it as a year-to-year basis of like, what do we need to maximize with this group? You know, what's going to put them in the best position. So, and then on the baseline, the same idea, like what, you know, all right, if we want to get something for our 5-man, what can we run? If we want to get something for 2 or 3 or back to the inbounder, you know, what's the play? Because in the course of the game, I want to see that and go, okay, we can take advantage of that. So let's run that play. But again, I wish our execution was a little bit better. We're trying to be better with that. I didn't do a great job last year of doing a lot of dry run. They actually were very good picking stuff up off the board, you know, like without really seeing it. But then when we try to run things over and over and over again, and without the dry run, you know, suffered a little bit. But you know, so yeah, I wish we were a little bit sharper. But yes, we do have a ton of options off of it. Try to keep it the same look initially, and then try to throw some different wrinkles in there.
I think you're a coach that's being hard on himself, because when I look at the stats on Synergy Sports, you're top 15% in the country for points per possession on baseline plays. So things were.
Well, Dan, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Good players make you look like a good coach. So that is. I wish I could say, yeah, I'm you know, based on out of bounds genius. It's the players made the plays, they made the shots, they made the reads. So it's them.
Let's talk about defense. You mentioned you like to get after it defensively. Top 10 numbers wise in terms of points per possession in the country last year. You also, because of your fast pace of play, you had the most opponent misses per game. Do you have any defensive philosophies or tips that you can share that helps your team get after it defensively?
Well, the switching really helps. Um, and I know there's people that don't like to switch. There's people that do different things. We used to play a zone that kind of matched into man to man. We did do that early last year. We kind of got away from it midway through the year. Uh, Not for any like real reasons, just we just got comfortable with matching and switching and doing that. Um, we did have and we do have good positional size. As it stands right now, like start a 6'6" guy, 6'4" guy, a 6'7", 6'8", 6'8". At our level, you don't see that. So and they're all capable of sitting down and guarding the ball. So when people try to ball screen us and we switch and like, okay, now they got the 5-man on the point guard and they just try to attack, we're able to move our feet. We do a lot of verticals. We work a lot on verticals at the rim, um, and that helped our shot blocking, big time. But again, I go back to, we had players that had really good defensive instincts, really good defensive communication. Like 2 or 3 guys that can really anchor that end for us and cover mistakes, which I think is huge because you're bound to make mistakes on the defensive end in a given possession. But to me, it's how you cover those mistakes. And the one thing we talk about is trying not to compound mistakes. Like I've told every team I've coached for a long time on the defensive end is one mistake can hurt you. It's the second mistake that kills you. Right. So like I get beat off the dribble. And if Dan's not there to help at the rim or in a gap or whatever, well, that's what's going to kill us. Me getting beat hurts, but you not being where you need to be is the killer. And they've done a good job of that. They've done a good job of playing off each other, reading each other, and I think they're a little bit like they're like sharks. Like when we get a miss, we smell blood in the water. Like we're going and we're pretty fast. So and we were pretty good in transition scoring. So they know like if we get a lot of stops, like we are out. And we can turn those, quick 4, 6, 8 point swings, off of that.
Yeah, let's talk about pace of play as well. That's one thing that stood out to me instantly. You had number 2 in the country in shots per game. You get after it, you attack the rim relentlessly. What kind of tips can you share for coaches listening or watching about how to coach relentlessness on the offensive end?
Well, it's given the freedom, it's getting good players, it's empowering them with the skill development, and like we have a guy right now that has never really shot threes in his career that through practice has shot at mid-30s. Now, I don't think he'll be a mid-30 shooter when it comes game time, but if he can be at 30, like that's pretty good for a guy that hasn't shot them in 2 years. Um, and early on, you could see there was a hesitancy. Then we scrimmaged the other day. He takes 4 of them, he makes 2, and I'm like, yeah, there you go. Like that's now you're talking about a 6'8" guy that's really good off the dribble, that's super super athletic, that's making, if he's going to take 4 of them and make 2 of them, well, that's a pretty dangerous weapon. So, really for us, it's doing a lot of stuff in the full court. And like when we do shell drill, like one of my favorite drills we'll do shell into, hey, if you get a stop, we're breaking, or we'll do a 3 trips where we're in shell. It's a defensive drill, but we're playing in full court and we're going. Certainly when we get into our offensive segment, it's a lot of up and down stuff. We start every day with a transition type of drill. And for us, like the guy that rebounds the balls, he's starting the break. Like it's not a rebound, pivot, outlet like we all kind of did growing up. It's rebound it, turn, and go. Like you're starting, you're pushing it on the dribble, and then look for your hit ahead. So again, doing ball handling with those guys, getting them comfortable with the ball, no matter who it is. And for some guys it's different. Some guys can rebound and go length of the floor. Some guys it's like, hey, 1, maybe 2 dribbles and get off of it, but you've already started moving. And gotten us going. So, that stuff we start every day with something like that, off the glass, rebound, push it. Sometimes it's straight ahead for a layup. Sometimes it's hit ahead to a coach, get it back and rip for a layup. Sometimes it's 2-on-0. Whatever it is, like, we'll do that every single day to get them, in that mindset. And then a lot of the stuff we do live will have some full court component. Very, very, very rarely do we stay in the half court for a full segment. Very rarely.
So with your pace of play, usually or sometimes, I guess, it leads to a lot of turnovers. It did for you defensively, but not offensively. Your team didn't turn the ball over a lot, especially for how many possessions you get per game. Is that something that you attribute to the fact that you're constantly getting game reps in practice? Is it game film that you're watching? What all goes into that low turnover offense?
Yeah, it's all encompassing. I mean, I think because we get out, and we're doing that. And what I say with the pace is, like, we're not helter skelter. We're not just throwing it around. Like, we work on that. Like, hey, if a guy's open, we're hitting head. If he's not, keep it and get us into the next thing. So it's not that. And a lot of times with us with the transition stuff, like, it's hit ahead and that guy is open and he can go make a play. And now it's either a layup or driving kick, or he's open ahead for a three. So you're limiting that stuff sometimes. But we do talk about it. It is something that, after every game we do a post-game edit, and turnovers is usually on there. It's negatives then positives. Turnovers is usually on there, whether we've had 6 in a game or 16 in the game. So we see what those turnovers are. And then assist is almost always a positive, and our ball movement, so that they see that piece of it too. Like, here's good ball movement. And to be honest with you, like, I've told them, like, I can deal. I don't love turnovers. Like, I really don't, like most coaches, but I can deal with some of it. Like, we have some guys that are really gifted passers, and I can deal. I heard a coach say this one time, like, you have a great scorer, right? You'll let him take some shots that he probably shouldn't take, but that if he's taking 15 shots, and he's going to go make 8 or 9 of them, you can deal with a bad shot or 2 or 3. So to me, it's the same with assist. If I have a guy that can go make a play and get some, my assistant Chris Cole has brought this up a lot. We have a guy that he says he throws guys open, and it's true. Like, he gets us layups and things that other guys can't. So every once in a while, yeah, he throws one that goes off of a defender's elbow, and it was almost there, and I can live with that. I can live with that because if he's getting us 6 points and that's we're 3 of 4, you take that from a shooter, so why not from a passer? So, but we do talk about it, and show film with guys and talk about when we are high turnover, why, and how come and how to avoid them.
Is there anything that you do game film wise in terms of teaching the players how to watch game film? Because I know a lot will just focus on what they're doing at all times, and you kind of have to have a broader view, bird's eye view of everything. Is there anything that you have to do to teach that skill?
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep them, shorter film sessions. I think everybody's kind of recognizing that and going to that, hey, these are not guys that can sit and watch. I'm not even going to say this generation, because when I played and we sat in there after we lost to GW and got back late at night, and my dad was not real happy, and we sat in that film room and watched the full game late into the night, like, your mind is like, all right, I can't even focus anymore. But yeah, just trying to get them to understand that early on in the year. We'll watch some film, whether it's from practice or inter squad scrimmages or outside scrimmages, and get them to understand that. And Synergy is a great resource for us, and you can put the notes at the top. So sometimes that gets them like, hey, let's look at that note. What does this say? Hey, Dan, you need to be in the weak side help. Da, da, da. Okay, let's watch it. And now they know what they're looking for. To be honest with you, it helps me too, because now I know, I can remember the play. But for them, it's like, okay, what are we looking for here? We're looking for Dan's weak side help. We're looking for this guy's rotation. We're looking for that. Okay, okay, there it is, right, Dan? So you need to be over here. So, I think that, and then um, getting them in for individual film sessions, with the coaches. I don't do that as much as I would like anyway. The assistants do a really good job of that. So getting those guys used to it. And then the other thing to me is like asking them questions, like maybe somebody's not involved in the play, but I'll freeze a play and say, all right, Dan, like what should happen right here? And you'll be like, oh, Earl should have kicked it there, and this guy should have cut. And so you now have to watch it. You're not even in the play, you might not even be in the game, right? Like I could call on anybody for that and say, all right, what are we seeing here? Like, what'd you see? Oh yeah, he should have, yeah, if he went that way, he could have kicked it here and that guy could have cut. Okay, now we're watching the game and not just watching ourselves.
I love that. I love that. What are you looking to get better at from last year? What do you think your team needs to improve at, and how does that show up in practice?
Well, one thing that we've really emphasized that we've done a good job in practice, I hope it carries. We were not much of an offensive rebounding team last year. Um, we were very, very low for some of the year. We were the last team in the country in offensive rebound percentage. I think we probably finished bottom 10, bottom 5, whatever it was. But it was not something we really emphasized. We didn't really have a group that I loved with offensive rebounding. This group I do. We have some length and athleticism at different positions. Our guards were not really offensive rebounders last year, and I do think to be a good offensive rebounding team, it's huge when you have wings that can offensive rebound. We have that this year, so that's been something that we've really just emphasized, Dan. Like not we didn't do a drill, we emphasize it. So when we do certain drills, it's +2 for an offensive rebound. If when we break the teams up now and it's, hey, Brendan's got the white team and Ryan's got the black team, and hey, Nick, you're on offensive rebounding today. Just crush those guys on, going to the glass, going to the glass. So, that is something that we want to be better at. I'd like to be better, again, our execution, half court execution, and like some of that type of stuff. I'd like to be a little bit sharper with. Manufacturing some baskets when we do get into those games that turn into a half court game, just being a little bit sharper with that. We're good in transition, and sometimes that does suffer. When you're good in transition, your half court can suffer a little bit. But trying to find a way to blend the two, is really important to me.
So you've spent your life in a gym, basically. You've seen a lot of high school youth practices, I'm sure. Is there any tips that you can give coaches on how to improve their skills or help their team get better?
Well, I think those young ages, the skill development piece is huge. And I have 3 children of my own right now. My son Philip just turned 15 this weekend. My daughter Mara is 12, and my little guy Nate is 6. And Nate hasn't yet; he will this year. But the others have played a lot of organized basketball, and um, I would say it's the skill development piece at an early age, not boxing kids in, like, hey, you're the tallest kid, so go stand over there, go stand by the basket. Like, no, get them used to dribbling the ball and passing the ball. And a lot of these practices I go to, it's like, all right, we're just trying to put in our 2-3 zone, or we're just trying to, figure out this play. And yeah, that's important. And obviously you're playing games and you're trying to, but I don't think there's enough skill development, being done in a lot of youth practices, to be honest with you. And I get it's hard, like for coaches, you got 1 hour with them sometimes a week and you're trying to, do all the things. But, I think that just getting them used to dribbling the ball, passing the ball, catching the ball, shooting the ball, understanding those skills and really kind of mastering those skills at a young age is huge. I would say put the ball in every kid's hand, do ball handling with every single kid, do passing and catching with every single kid, because the reality is a lot of these youth games, I just see one kid that's dribbling around, taking a lot of shots, and you're like, all right, that's not the game. And it's, yeah, it might work at the 4th grade level, but by the 6th grade level or the 8th grade level, or certainly by the 9th grade, 10th grade level, that's not going to work anymore. You got to be able to play basketball. So, That would be my suggestion. A lot of skill development.
Yeah, I love that. There's not a yeah, you can't touch a ball enough,
Yes.
especially at that age. And to box them in at because you're the tallest kid at 12 years old, 8 years old, whatever. I'm sure there's countless number of players who when they were 12 didn't grow anymore. And now they're stuck. They don't know how to dribble and they're
Yeah.
5'6". So
Well, it's always been the thing, years ago when I was assistant at Delaware, they had a program with the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, where they brought international coaches over from all different sports from every country, and they shadowed coaches in the United States. And through that program, I got to meet somebody who was high up with FIBA, and we had lunch with him, and we were discussing the differences, obviously, just in basketball of in the European countries, they don't play games. It's just all skill as they're coming up, and it's why those kids are so skilled. Now he said the flip is on the American side, we get to playing games right away. And he said what happens is your kids are so competitive. So when the skill does catch up, they are so competitive. So he said, like for a lot of the European countries, when they first go to international competition at whatever it is, under 16s or whatever, they're not used to that fierce level of competition where the American kids are. And it's trying to blend those two things because in basketball you need both. Now he said in soccer, it's why Europe's so far, and I don't know anything about soccer. I played whatever 7 years of youth soccer, never scored a goal, was a horrible soccer player. But what he said in soccer is because they do that with the young kids, soccer's such a skill game that's why they're so far ahead of us in the US. My 6-year-old has had whatever 7 or 8 games this year. He's probably had 8 hours of practice and he's played 8 games. Like he's not, that's the trade-off. The trade-off is that we're not getting this, the skill, but are getting the competitive piece. So, it's a hard balance, and I get that, but yeah, I do think more skill when they're young, the better.
okay, I'm cognizant of the time, so we'll get to the last part here. I call this the fast break portion. And because you're a coach
I
of
like it. We
number
like
one
fast breaks
fast
in this
break,
program. So.
yep. So you'll be good at this. Just quick answers, one word, one sentence. We have Team A, number one offensive team in the country, mediocre defensively. Team B, number one defense, mediocre offensively. Who would you rather coach?
Ooh. I'm gonna go. I can't believe me from 10 years ago wouldn't believe I'm saying this, but I'm gonna go Team B. Because I'm gonna say if we're that good defensively, we're gonna get out in transition and we're gonna score. We're gonna be better than mediocre offense. So
All right.
I'll take
I
the good defense, the great defensive team, and then we're out. We're out. We might not be able to score in a half court, but we're out.
What's one thing that you're trying to get better at coaching wise?
I think it's just the managing of everything. It's you're dealing with everything and everybody. Everybody's problems are your problems. So I think it's just that making sure that my attention is divvied up, in a fair way to every person and every topic that we have to deal with.
What do you think is the best way to improve young basketball players' basketball IQ?
Mm. Well, I think there's so many resources for them now. I think it's get them to watch the game and talk about the game and see what they see. I loved the game when I was 14, 15 years old. My son, Philip, at 14, 15-year-old, he knows way more than I knew at that age. And a lot of it's because of the internet. It's video, it's reading articles, it's understanding analytics, it's all those things. I mean, he talks about things and I'm like, I didn't know until about 5 years ago, and he knows at 14 or 15. So I think it's that get them to watch it, get them to talk about it, and what they're seeing and what they're thinking. And, I think that's huge.
Last one for you. If I'm coming to Smithfield, Rhode Island, I'm coming to see a Bryant basketball game. What's one restaurant and one site that I need to see as well?
Ooh, one restaurant is a hard one. Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. I'm going to tell you go down to Federal Hill in Providence. It's about 10, 15 minutes from campus, and just walk into a restaurant and order anything. and you're going to call me and say, Phil, that was one of the greatest meals I ever had. I haven't been to all of them, but the ones I've been to, that would be my go-tos. If you're talking right here in Smithfield, I'd go down the street to Davola's is a good spot, good Italian spot. One site you need to see, I would I'd tell you to go down to the Rhode Island beaches. I'm extremely partial to the to the Jersey beaches where I grew up, or going down, down to the Avalon, New Jersey, and Sea Isle City, and Ocean City, and Stone Harbor, and those places. So I'm very, very, very partial to that. Rhode Island Beach is pretty nice. My in-laws get a place in Westerly every summer, and you can see Taylor Swift's house from there. So, that's probably a good site for people to see. But yeah, I'd say go down to Rhode Island Beach and hang out for the day.
Now you're talking my daughter's languages. They're 9 and 13. Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I got two of them in my house. My wife never was a Swiftie, and she took my daughter to the concert in Philadelphia. I don't know, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now at this point,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've gotten in her car since where there's not a Taylor Swift song on the radio.
Same. We went in Tampa, and it's the same thing. All Taylor, all the time. Yeah. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time. I'm really looking forward to watching your games, seeing you run your team going up and down the court at fast pace. I love watching that kind of basketball. Thank you very much for your time and sharing your experiences. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Best of luck this year.
Dan. Absolutely. Thanks. And come on up anytime.
Okay. I'll let you know.
Swish.